Hi there, guys. Octavian here. This is going to be episode 2 of my newer series, Challenger Casts. This is the one, for those of you who didn't catch episode 1, where I'm going to be casting over Challenger level solo queue games that I pull from a list on lolking.com. There'll be a link to that in the description if you want to go check out some of these replays yourself. But, anyways, I'm doing this because I've gotten a few requests here and there from people who are looking to find shoutcasts of me going over much higher level gameplay than I usually get sent in for the 100 cast series, since 100 casts is open to everyone, and the vast majority of players in this game are not in Challenger. That's why it's Challenger. But there are certainly enough players in Challenger that I can find you replays of them, and I can cast over them. So here goes episode 2. This one we are going to be featuring Froggen on Katarina in the mid lane, and it promises to be quite an interesting match. Speak about some of the other matchups, though. We've mentioned that Froggen is in the mid lane and Katarina. He's against a Xerath, and actually I don't really think that matchup is going to be going in his favor. Xerath is very, very adept at laning against a Katarina, has the range to be able to harass her away since she is melee, and also has a stun to deal with Death Lotus if necessary, though the stun is fairly unreliable. It's not point and click or anything like that. It is a skill shot, and it's not very large or wide, so it is very possible that Froggen could dodge it if he plays correctly or just time his Death Lotus after it's already been used. So that's going to be a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Whoever can balance their skills more effectively will probably be winning that matchup in the middle lane. But let's move to some of the other ones. There's a bottom lane in this game as well, just as there is in every game that we play, hopefully. It is going to be Swaglord and Freeze playing on Nami and Lucian versus the Thresh and Corki pairing on the other side of the match there. I want to give that one to... I'm actually not sure. As far as laning phase goes, all 4 of those champions are very powerful laners. Thresh in a slightly different way than Nami. Nami is more a overtime sustained threat, whereas Thresh is better at the instant engages by landing that hook and forcing a fight to happen. But it looks like Freeze and Swaglord are getting the better of that lane, actually. They've managed to push it up. They've gotten the early level 2. Just now we see Corki and Thresh picking that up. Very nice Shunpo from Froggen to dodge away from the Arcana Pulse. And so that seems to be going in favor of the Lucian Nami, which isn't too surprising. They are a very powerful duo. They have a lot of damage early, as well as the ability to sustain up, whereas Corki and Thresh have a lot of damage, but they don't quite have that same sustain in lane. They're a little bit more focused around the instant bursty fights rather than the sustained laning mechanics. There's the hook, flying wide onto Freeze, nearly connecting. And he's going to dash forward and trade back a little bit as well, realizing that pressure is down. Meanwhile, up in top lane, we have Fury flashing forward to knock Steve back into a gank, and there is first blood going over to Fury on that Jace top. Blue team taking a small lead here. And that is the one matchup I've yet to go into, actually. It's a Jace versus Lissandra in the top lane. Haven't seen Lissandra top in quite a while. It used to be very popular, especially over in Europe, which is where this replay is from. There's the flash forward from Lysan, trying to pull Freeze back into this gank. The charge up, flash from MTO, but there is a very nice bubble to try and stop this from going through. Another flag, and we pulling Freeze back towards the opposing side. However, the Tycaller's blessing is keeping Lysan very close and very low on health. This has been wonderfully played by Swaglord and Freeze. Well done by the bottom lane of blue team. They don't get any kills back, but they burn a lot of summoners and nearly take down Thresh. And there's Froggen getting hit up by the stun, the slow, and the Q. He's charging. It doesn't land, though, and the ignite taking is not going to be able to bring him down in time. As Kha'Zix tries to fire out Avoid Spikes, that is a tense moment for Froggen, but he does manage to dodge those to the side as well and gets away with just about 20 hit points to his name. That was a dangerous, dangerous situation for him there, but he did manage to escape alive. Still, though, that shows you just how powerful this Xerath can be in a lane against Katarina. One stun landing, and suddenly he can nearly bring her down, pushing her out of the lane pretty effectively. And he did drop Ignite in that fight. I'm a little bit surprised at the Ignite. It certainly worked for him there, but Xerath usually is not one to take Ignite as the pull, landing onto Freeze to bring him under the tower. The Ignite is dropped, but Corki goes down nearly instantly. And Freeze, despite being hooked under tower, comes out ahead in that simply because Corki didn't have any of his summoners left. Had he had Heal or maybe Flash, well, no, he did have Flash, but had he had Heal to keep himself a little bit more healthy during that engagement, he might have been able to come out alive, but he had to burn it during that beautifully played 3v2 by Swaglord and Freeze, and that meant that he simply didn't have it there, as Swaglord's doing a little bit of a support duel. Anyways, Froggen has roamed up to the top lane. Steve is trying to get in onto Fury, but doesn't want to go right next to him because this Jace does have some burst, nearly brings Steve down, but Froggen manages to finish off the kill before Jace can quite take out Lissandra. Roam's successful for Froggen. Looks like he's going to be pushing up the minions as well, denying that Jace as much as possible. But here comes Xerath from the middle lane. He's going to meet up with Froggen in the river, though, and so Lissandra's going to be able to get back to base safely. Froggen cutting off that aggression from the Xerath. You know what's interesting? We've seen one gank attempt from both junglers so far, but we haven't seen very much involvement by either one of them. This laning phase has been pretty explosive all over. We've had kills and attempted kills in pretty much every lane, but only because of the laners battling each other. Not really any true involvement from the junglers except for that one poor turnaround by Freeze and Swaglord down in the bottom lane, or amazing turnaround depending on which side of the coin you're on. And I believe there was a gank top lane which resulted in the first blood, and that was a fairly simple affair. Freeze, nice dash to avoid the hook as he's going to lay some damage back onto Lyson for his troubles. Froggen taking some harass in the middle lane, but that's really nothing new. We've seen Xerath landing a lot of damage onto this Katarina pretty much this entire game, and it's amounted to a 20 CS lead for Xerath, meaning that he's going to have a little bit of a gold advantage in that lane. There is that kill landing onto Froggen after he roamed up to top lane, and that's helping alleviate that burden a little bit, but the gold differential is still there as Freeze is going to do some good damage to Thresh, dodging around the turret aggro pretty much perfectly. Fi is here, though, for another attempt at a gank, charging up the Vault Breaker. Where's she going to send it? Goes flying at Swaglord, knocking her against the wall, and there's the Phosphorus Bomb finishing off the kill as a Sultan Battery is used onto Freeze. He does manage to turn around and get enough damage to bring down the Thresh as the flash forward from Corki, going to pick up the double kill for Zvanillion. Zvanillion, yes. That is a strange name to say. It's awkward. It doesn't roll off the tongue, not in the least, but I believe that is how you pronounce it, Zvanillion. If any of you know, please do feel free to try and tell me in the comments, though I do realize that typing a pronunciation can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Speaking of CS differences, as we were earlier with Xerath, very nice Shock Blast landing onto Steve, and that is probably where this CS difference in the top lane is stemming from. Those repeated Shock Blasts bringing this Lissandra down to half or less of her hit points and pushing her back under the tower, amounting to a 20 CS lead in the top lane as well as the mid lane, where it's actually closing in on 30 now. And there's a CS lead in the bottom lane as well for Purple Team. All of this is amounting to about a 1,000 gold lead on the map, and there's the flash forward from Lissandra. Glacial Tomb followed up as well, and while Death Lotus does get interrupted, still enough damage there from Froggen to finish off the kill. Roaming up from middle lane once more seems to have paid off. The downside for this Jace of continual Shock Blasts onto his opponent and of pushing the minion wave does mean that he gets, well, pushed up, and Katarina can come gank, but down in bottom lane we have a nice hook landing on the Freeze. Tidal Wave from the Nami, going to be trying to disengage here, but it's not going to be enough. The Ignite from Thresh going to be finishing off. Lucian is now Swaglord is the next one in trouble. Zvanillion chasing after this Nami. The bubble goes back. Nice double bubble. Lands as she flashes away, just barely surviving. Now Xerath is roaming down from middle lane, but gets spotted out by a ward. Chooses to turn around. Not going to be continuing to try for that gank, and Froggen has been having a lot more success with his roams than this Xerath has, which has really amounted to an evening out of the gold score, which is quite good for Purple Team. They've been behind pretty much up until this point, but now they are nearly exactly even and looking to get themselves a lead, actually, by going after this dragon. Jace is going to be pressuring in top lane while this happens, but it's not really going to matter too much since Kha'Zix is kind of caught out here, actually. The hook lands on the Fiddle Biddle, and he's forced to try and leap away, but he goes down anyways. The Xerath ult going to come out. One shot, two shots, both land. Thresh falls, and that is a 1-for-1 trade But a dragon goes over to purple team, giving them a gold lead of about 700 or so. Well, this has been a roller coaster ride so far this game. We've had leads going in both directions, but we are only 10.5 minutes into the match. We've still got a lot more ground to cover before we see a victory screen anywhere. Dash forward from Freeze, putting some good damage onto the Vi there, and going to be pushing up the lane, going to get a turret. No turrets have fallen yet anywhere on the board, so both teams are looking to try and get that first advantage under their belt, as Quazo is just throwing out poke after poke onto Froggen here. Froggen has done a very good job of roaming, particularly up to that top lane, and actually has bought boots of home guard boots already. That is a very early enchantment, likely trying to get back to that lane and get around roaming as quickly as possible. But looks like Quazo is going to be able to get the first hurt of the game here, looking with those Xerath auto attacks to bring it down, and they don't hurt too much, but they do eventually do the job. First hurt of the game falls over to blue team, and the gold is just about even once again. Seems to be a pretty common thread for this game, as the Shock Blast just about lands onto Steve. Fiddle-Padiddle trying to come in here to make something happen, take advantage of, well, this advantage that Fury has managed to pull out in the top lane. But while Katarina has had lots of luck roaming up the top lane, it doesn't look like Kha'Zix is going to be in a similar boat. There is the tidal wave, speaking of boats, but it doesn't quite land onto Corki's airboat as the hook flies out towards Swaglord. It doesn't land either. And you know, why does a tidal wave affect Corki? He's flying. That doesn't make any sense. That must be an absolutely monstrous wave. But I digress, and we move on to the jungle, where Fiddle-Padiddle is trying to invade here. MTU does pick up his Wraith, but there's the leap in from Fiddle-Padiddle, and the damage back up from Quazo. There's one shot, there's two shots. The third shot does not land, and the flash forward gets completely countered by a turnaround assault and battery, and Froggen's damage as well. Quazo now flashing over the wall to escape from this Lysandre, who teleported down. Nice flash over the stun there. Beautiful timing from Froggen, but it doesn't really matter. Quazo still manages to escape, while up in the top lane, Jace has been taking advantage of his lack of an opponent to bring down the turret and bring down the hammer. We swap back over to the bot lane, where things are a lot quieter than the rest of the map. Svenillion and Freeze just farming it out. However, Svenillion is not a fan of this quiet. He Valkyries in, but he gets bursted down nearly instantly. Shutdown gold going over to Lucian, as now Lysan is the one in trouble. He's trying to run away through the river. He's dodging and ducking, but he does go down in the end. However, Froggen is here, and he's getting the resets. Double kill goes both to Lucian and to Katarina. Up in top lane, we have Fury 3 again. Trading it out with Steve, going in perhaps to try and make something happen, but Steve does have those persistent slows. Makes it very difficult for Jace to get in next to him while he's in melee form. Even though Jace also can counter it out with persistent speed buffs. Jace is one of the quickest and lightest of foot characters in the game when he wants to be, so it's just a matter of fast versus slow up in the top lane, whereas the rest of the map is... well, there's a lot of mobility, actually, in this game. That's something which we should probably take note of. There is a Vi for gap close. Actually, I do believe that every single member of Purple Team has some method of gap closing. There's Thresh, who can hook Valkyrie from the Corki, Katarina's Shunpo, Vi's Assault and Battery, and Vault Breaker, and Lysandre's Glacial Path. So this is a very mobile team comp that Purple has put together here, whereas Blue Team has a fairly mobile one. 3 out of 5 members have gap closers. Jace, Kha'Zix, and Lucian all are part of the gap closing club, whereas Xerath and Nami are a bit less mobile. But enough about that, let's move on to something else while we have the time between all these explosive fights we've seen across the map. We should look at some of the builds that have been picked up so far. We have a Trinity Force finished off from Corki. It's a big power spike for him that just got hit. But on the other side, there's a power spike as well for the Lucian, who just finished off his Infinity Edge. I would like to give that advantage over to Corki right now. I think the Trinity Force finish is a bit more important, and Freeze is actually getting engaged on here. There's the knockback from Vi and the hook from Thresh, both landing in quick succession, sentencing that Lucian to death. Caught out a little bit, but it is only one death. Blue team can probably hold themselves back from a push here. Very nice splitting there away from the Thresh hook. They all dodge in different directions, and the Thresh hook goes for a field goal, and they're actually going to be pushing up in the middle lane here. However, down in bottom, there is a Corki split pushing. He's on the turret, and it looks like Purple Team's probably going to be getting their first turret of the game fairly soon if Corki's left alone a little bit longer. The hook lands on the Fiddle Badillo. There's the box burn as well. MTU is off to the side, but Thresh is going down very quickly. Tidal Wave coming out from Nami, kind of whiffing as Fury 2 gets ulted by this Vi, and Froggen is unstoppable coming in from the side for the cleanup. Nice Q lands from the Zerath, but it's not going to be followed up by anything as Corki's actually coming around to get in onto Fiddle Badillo. Flash forward for the auto attack. There is the Trinity Force Brock doing its work. That burst of damage bringing down the Kazakhs is now the Katarina might be a little bit caught out here. She dodges away from the stun. The Ignite, though, is not something you can dodge, and the auto attack from Nami isn't either. Shutdown Gold going over to the Fish Lady. They're going to be pushing up the middle lane now with that small advantage they have on the map. However, Corki does have rockets, and he has a lot of damage as well, so they're going to have to halt their push here and back up a little bit while Zerath lays down some poke. But we were talking about builds before some action occurred, and there were a few other interesting points I wanted to get to, not just the Home Guard Sorcerer Shoes, but also the fact that Katarina did go with Sorcerer Shoes so early. It was her first item, and that is a very interesting pickup. But I can see the merit in it, seeing as there is a single magic resist item on the other team right now, and so having that flat magic penetration is really going to be doing a lot of work here. She's also picked up a Haunting, guys, as we see the dragon going down. Vi Smite securing that one. Just a simple matter because Kazakhs was nowhere to be found. Off by his Wraith Camp, getting hooked actually. Fiddle Badillo going to be flaying him back into his team. That was a very nice hook, and he manages to not escape. He manages to not escape, goes down as MTU. There's one shot, there's the second shot, where's the third one? It's not coming at all. Alright. Whoa, there it is! I thought the ult had ended. I sincerely thought the ult had ended. Very well done, Quazo. Catching Vi off guard there, waiting between them, waiting for the very last second before firing out that last right of the arcane, and now Liven! Woo, getting burst down nearly instantly. Fury 3 picking up that kill, and then taunting about it because that is the honorable thing to do. They're going to be pushing up the mid lane now, going for this secondary turret if they can get it. And I do believe they probably can. They're only about 1,000 gold behind here or so. Mostly, they have lost a few dragons, but they are up in terms of turrets, and it looks like they're looking to be extending that turret lead. Going for the secondary turret in the middle lane. That's going to be falling right about now, as they're going to take out some minions as well. But there's Lysandra going in. Glacial Tomb instantly bringing down the Jace. As now follow up from Vi. She's ulting in onto the Nami. She goes down. Froggen trying to get the resets here. Gets slowed up by the Kazakh spikes as Corki has taken too much of the culling to continue this chase. But Froggen turns and kills some minions. Oh, there's the Thresh hook. Doesn't quite land onto Quazo as Svenelin is nearby as well. Oh, Quazo's a little playing with fire here. He's walking up and poking onto the enemy team while they're still got 4 members around, and they've got decent engage even without Vi ult up. So, I don't know. That was a very close hook coming over the wall there. This Zerath here, Quazo, is getting a little bit crazy with his positioning. Froggen is off in the bush to the side. He might not know that. Froggen going to be coming in, forcing the flash away from Zerath as he turns around with the stun to stop the Death Lotus. And there is Lysa off the side trying to 1v1 freeze, but he doesn't really have the ability to do so. Zerath, though, coming out, and there's the second shot. Going to be bringing down the Thresh as Fury 3 is down in the backside of the enemy team, getting knocked up by Vi, though, and taken out by Froggen, who is 7-1 right now. Looking to go into the tower, perhaps? No, just tossing a knife for some harass. Speaking of harass, blue team has quite a bit of that. Quazo's been doing very well with those Arcano Pulses, dropping them on the enemy team and doing quite a bit of harass himself, whereas Fiddle Badillo has been doing his part with that upgraded Void Spikes that he took with his first Evolve. Probably going to be going with the Wings second, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very common Evolve path for Kazakhs these days, as Steve is up in the top lane, bringing down the turret. Falls to Lysandra. Somewhat evening up the turret score, still 2 in advantage of blue team as we see Corki bringing down the white camp, and we should look at some of the builds right now because we have a few important points to go over. The Katarina has picked up her Zhonya's Hourglass here. Froggen, having picked up that, is going to be quite a big deal. That's going to be very valuable in the next major team fight that we come across, and Lysandra has as well. And speaking of team fights, that's something which I've meant to get to a good while ago, but I've had so much to talk about that it's been able to slip my mind over and over again. The fact that Purple Team's team is very well put together for team fighting. It's a wonderful team fight, team comp, as Lysandra's going to be going in, looking to engage one of said team fights. Lysan going in onto Freeze, flaying him back and getting that kill as Froggen finishes off the double kill onto Nami. That was one of the swiftest double kills I have seen to date. Now they're going to be taking advantage of that two-man advantage on the map and going into the enemy jungle, getting some good vision down, landing the hook onto Quazo, but gets stunned up, can't quite follow it under the tower, and Quazo going to take some more harass before backing up to safety, dropping some harass of his own. Froggen now getting knocked back by Fury 3 as Lysandra comes over the wall, goes into the Zoni's Hourglass. Like I said, that was going to be a very important pickup, and Fiddle Badiddle gets ulted mid-leap, and the right of the arcane does not land this time. Quazo not quite as good at sniping as he has been the past few times he's used that ult. And that is a 3-for-0 trade overall. Very delayed 3-for-0, but a 3-for-0. So they're going to be pushing up the middle lane now. The hook flies out, lands into Quazo. Lysan, though, not going to be following it up. Too much potential for a turnaround from Fury and Swaglord. Some of these names, I swear, they're some of the best names ever can be found up in Challenger. Steve going to be pushing out the top lane, clearing those minions pretty well. And not only is Purple Team very nice for team fighting, they also have quite good wave clear. They've got Lysandra, well, it's not really ranged wave clear. They kind of have to be close to the minions, but they can bring them down very swiftly. They have Lysandra, who can just press a few buttons and suddenly the minion wave is gone. Katarina can do very similar things, and Corki, with Phosphorus Bomb and his ulti, can bring down minion waves in no time at all. So they are very, very good at pushing up these waves. It's Froggen a little bit caught out there, but thankfully Lysan is nearby with a Dark Passage to bring him to safety. We're at a little bit of a standstill. The next point of contest is probably going to be the dragon, spawning in about 35 seconds. Wouldn't be surprised if Purple Team were to make a move for that very shortly, seeing as they did manage to pick up the last dragon spawn. So they do have the timer for it. They know it's going to be coming up pretty soon. They could get some vision onto it and go to try and make that happen for themselves. However, Corki's heading back to base right now, and he's not going to be able to get to the pit in time for it to spawn. There's some pings coming out onto it, so they do know that it's happening. Froggen and Lysan on their way through the jungle over to there. Probably looking to get some vision on it at the very least, if not pick up the dragon entirely. As Vi's roaming down out of the top jungle on her way down towards there as well. And we should look at some of the other builds here. T in the bush there. However, Fiddle Badiddle had some spidey senses tingling, and he realized that Vi very well might be on her way down from top lane, so shot out his spikes, got the vision in the bush, and they cleared out the pink ward for good measure. As Purple Team is grouping around Dragon. Got Corki on their way, but Vi's kind of caught out on the other side there, so if Kha'Zix can get down here in time, he could smite it away, but it looks like they are instead opting to push the middle lane out while the Dragon does fall to Purple Team, extending their gold lead by a good amount more. Trying to catch Vi out in the jungle, and you know, honestly, I think that was a little bit of a misplay from Blue Team here, as now the ult from Lysandra going to be holding Quazo up, followed up by MTO, and they really want this Xerath to go down, but he's not going to fall. Xerath picks up the kill on Vi as Corki finishes off Jace, and Nami falls off to the side. Now Froggen getting the double kill there, then going into the zone used to avoid the damage from Freeze. Now Quazo going into right of the arcane to try and finish people off, but he can't quite do it as Lysan gets the shutdown gold. That is a 3-for-1 trade, 4-for-1 trade overall, I can count. And that is certainly not a good place to be for Blue Team right now. Freeze, the only one left standing after that fight, going to be sitting in the mid lane trying to make a defense happen here, but honestly, I think he might just get dove if he sticks around. So yeah, he's going to back up away from the turret. This outer turret here is going to fall. It was just a matter of time. The teleport coming in, actually, they want to defend it, and he gets there just as it falls. Fury 3 now, maybe looking to engage, but they turn around. They do a lot of damage onto him, and there's the Glacial Path coming in, and Swaglord is caught way out of position. Froggen is godlike. He's going to follow up with the reset onto Fury, and there's the rocket from Svenilian, finishing off the kill as they push up onto the secondary turret in the middle lane. And they have no reason not to, really. They just took out another 2 members of Blue Team. The defense here from Blue Team has been a little bit paltry, to be perfectly honest. They've sent in 1 or 2 members at a time trying to defend the turrets, and each time they've just got outnumbered, and here's Fiddle Badiddle again getting outnumbered in the jungle. Vi brings him down, as now she's going to be following up onto Freeze, doing some amazing damage. This Vi has built incredibly aggressive. That is a Trinity Force Brutalizer that she's got right there. Going under the tower might not have been the best idea, though. She gets bubbled up with the tower, bringing her down, and because of her aggressive build, she is quite squishy. Nami getting that kill. That is poor solace, though, for Nami, after the majority of her team fell, as well as multiple towers. Not really worth it just for the single kill onto a little bit of an over-aggressive Vi. But at least it's something, and hopefully Quazo will be back with us shortly. We've had a few minor disconnects this game, but I don't think any of them have affected the outcome too over much. Hopefully Quazo will be back very soon, and we can avoid any having to come across another replay without disconnects and cast over that, because I've spent a good amount of time talking about this game and I don't want it all to be in vain. There's the hook landing a Nami over the wall. Doesn't quite matter too much, and there's the Xerath reconnecting. That is a good thing. I'm very glad that he's back. It's never fun to watch a game that is lopsided simply due to one player not being able to connect. That's not a matter of skill, it's just a matter of bad luck. As Froggen going to be stealing away the blue buff, that's certainly a worthy thing to attempt to do. No reason to let the other team have the blue buff if you have as much control over the map as Froggen's team does right now. They've done quite an admirable job of getting some ward coverage down in that blue side jungle, and quite an admirable job of getting a gold lead as well. They're 10,000 or so ahead, and we're only 26 minutes into this game. It could increase by quite a bit. Blue buff going to be going over to Corki, since the other one did go over to Katarina. They have no reason to give that one to Katarina as well. So, two members of Purple Team sporting blue buffs right now, and Corki with the blue buff is actually a fairly strong proposition. He's got one of those sorcerer's shoes, so the rockets and phosphorus bombs are going to be hurting a good amount more because of that. And having the blue buff means that he can spam out the rockets pretty much continually during any fencing situation in the middle lane between the teams, if that does indeed happen and become a sort of minor ARAM. Thresh clearing out as much vision as he possibly can, as MTU has a disconnect problem as well. Hopefully he will be back with us. The hook flies out, and Kha'Zix was not quite in range to connect us. Froggen going to be forced to back away here, and he's actually gone with a very defensive build, this Froggen has. But there's the hook landing on a freeze, going to be flaying him back into the team, and he's going to be going down very quickly. Svenillion is unstoppable as Froggen gets the resets and gets legendary. Goes into Zhonya's immediately thereafter just to ensure that he doesn't fall over, as the rocket going to be finishing off Nami to the side, and there's the flash forwards from Svenillion, securing the triple kill and securing this tower for his team. Lysan's a little bit trapped. Lysan, buddy, no! He's taking damage from the Xerath. He can't go into the tower. One shot would kill him, and there's the Q. Gonna be finishing him off. Caught between a rock and a hard place. He falls over. Glacial Path, bringing Lysandra across the wall, where she's gonna head on back to base as Corki finishes off the wolves right next to her. Actually, no, some pinks are going on to Baron. This would be a very risky Baron call, though, I believe. As no! This Xerath never fails to impress with his Rite of the Arcane. That was a very, instant. She walked over the pink ward, and Xerath instantly saw the opportunity and shot out a long-range missile of death, taking down the Lysandra, as now Baron has been started by Purple Team, but they got chased off, and Blue Team has taken up the torch now. They're going to be trying to burn down the giant purple lizard. Svenillion is doing his best to distract them, but he's actually gotten fairly low in his efforts. Fury 3 now going to be going in and taking this up with Fiddle the Diddle, and Vi is coming around the corner. We're going to get the smite, but it's a little bit too late. The Baron does indeed fall to Quazo. Dragon is not on this side of the map, it's on the other one. There's Vi going in with the ult onto Freeze, bringing down Nami as she does so. Freeze has not yet fallen, actually, but Steve is going to be bringing down Xerath and going into Zhonya's in the middle of the enemy team, as Lysan is going to be chasing after them. Vi finishes off Jace off to the side. Double kill so far for Lysandra, and it looks like Kha'Zix is going to be the only one to escape the massacre. I don't know if Baron was really worth it. Vi nearly went down. That was very dangerous proposition for her, but she did manage to pull off a very solid engage for her team, and they're going to be going after this inhibitor turret now, bringing that down, going for the inhibitor right after that, because why the hell not? Get that middle lane surging with super minions on their side. The hook flies out, but doesn't quite land on the Kha'Zix. I don't really know if he would have wanted to go in on that, even if it had connected. Enough members of Blue Team are respawning that would have been a dangerous situation. And they're going to peel off and go for the dragon, since, well, they didn't get Baron, they did get 4 kills, so they have the pressure on the map to go for this objective, and there's no reason not to. It's a good chunk of gold to put into their inventories, and that can translate into some very powerful items. Speaking of powerful items, we've got a Vi going with a Black Cleaver here, on top of a Trinity Force and an Elder Lizard. That Vi is going to be junking quite hard. On the flip side of that, however, she's not going to have very many hit points. She's got a Giant's Belt on top of that, but compared to a Vi who went with 2 or 3 tank items at this point in the game, that is a lot of squishiness that she has, and not very much tankiness. So she's gonna have to choose her engages very carefully. But if she can choose them correctly, then she's gonna be able to bring down Lucian or Xerath all by herself. I have no qualms about that. Vi can do large sums of damage if she does in fact build damage. She of course is much squishier if she does so, but she is not lacking in the ability to do damage. It's just she's usually more useful as a full tank. But if your team is as ahead as this purple team has been, then perhaps going with a heavy damage build can pay off. And it seems to have. They're certainly in the lead by more than 10,000 gold at this point, probably 11 or 12 if I'm doing my math correctly, which I probably am not. I'm not very good at math. Blue Trinket going to be spotting out a few members of Purple Team in the jungle. They know where they are, but I don't really think there's not that much that Blue Team can do about this. Even their ward coverage is getting taken out nearly as soon as it's laid down as the hook flies out. Doesn't quite land onto anybody, but MTU is coming around the corner looking to make something happen here. Lucian's down on the bottom side of the map, so this would be a 4v5. If they could just get a good engage, they could easily win this fight, probably even under a turret. I wouldn't be surprised if they just went for a turret dive at some point. That is one of the downsides of Vi's aggressive build. It means that she isn't quite as good at turret diving, but she can still pull it off, as MTO is looking to go for freeze all by himself. And as I said, this Vi build, good lord, it can hurt. That is a solo kill on to the 80 carry from Vi, as the turret falls in the top lane. They're looking to go for the inhibitor turret in the top lane, rather, as well. Their second inhibitor turret of the game, most likely second inhibitor as well. Blue team could potentially pull off a defense here. They're still not entirely out of this. Lysan coming around, dropping the box as well, going for a full-on engage here. Fiddle to Diddle going to be falling right after Nami does. Now Fury is the one in trouble. Froggen going to be going for that kill, as they're going to just head on to the Nexus turrets. Why not? There is a shot from Xerath, though, bringing down the Lysandra, but it's going to be a little bit too little too late. Xerath falls not Xerath, Thresh falls as well to the Xerath, but again, too little too late. Quazo doing his best here, but I'm afraid that his best is just no longer enough. The Nexus is under fire, and the Nexus is falling. GG the Purple Team, thank you guys for watching, and hey, if you liked it, consider subscribing, leaving a comment, or pressing the button that says you liked it. And all of those things can help me quite a bit. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like the series, there's another episode in it, and gonna be a lot more as well, so you should subscribe to watch those. I've also got a few other series on my channel, one where I do a very similar thing, shoutcasts over games, but games that are sent in to me by fans and friends. So hey, if you want my voice over your game, go ahead and check the description. You can figure out how to do that down there. And one last thing. You are all the best. Thank you very much for watching. You are why I do this.